In our episodes, we discuss cases and topics that might be distressing or disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. I want to jump in here right off the bat and say that I was not intending for this specific case to be a two-part series, but it's going to be a two-parter. In today's episode, which I have recorded previously, I mentioned that I had submitted a records request for information in this case. At the time that I recorded it, I hadn't received anything back yet. But after recording and after editing, I did receive an 8-page document back from the Iowa Department of Public Safety. Now, it doesn't answer a lot of the questions I bring up in today's episode, but I am going to talk about what is in that report in next week's episode. So, stay tuned for that, and let's get into the episode. On July 30th, 2011, a fire broke out at the Norwalk, Iowa home of Bill and Kay Wood. When the smoke cleared, investigators found the body of 79-year-old Bill in the rubble. But he didn't die because of the fire. He had been shot to death. His wife, 72-year-old Kay, was nowhere to be found. The next day, the couple's pickup was discovered abandoned in Kansas City, Missouri. Bill and Kay were in their 70s and had been married for just 3 years, both finding love again after being widowed. In this episode, we're going to look at the events surrounding the murder of Bill Wood, the disappearance of Kay, and the questions that remain. Let's get started. On the evening of Saturday, July 30th, 2011, around 11:30 p.m., firefighters responded to a call about a massive house fire at a manufactured trailer-type home in Norwalk, Iowa, a small town south of Iowa's capital of Des Moines. In 2011, the population of Norwalk was just over 9,000. Janet Michael, who lived next door, said in an interview with Who TV 13 that she began to smell smoke while she was watching TV. She said, quote, "I came outside and walked down the stairs, and you could see the flames. They were as high as the trees." Another neighbor had gone to bed but later woke up to the commotion of the emergency response. She said she was shocked at how high the flames were. When firefighters arrived, the entire home was engulfed in flames, and they were unable to get inside. And I can only imagine, too, that emergency responders just have to be praying that no one is inside the home. And at this point, they don't know if anyone's in there. The blaze is just too big for them to get inside to even attempt to rescue anyone. Putting out the blaze was a lengthy process, one that lasted until the early morning hours of Sunday, July 31st. The residents of the home were James Wood, who went by Bill, and Kadena Wood, who went by Kay. The two were in their 70s, Bill being 79 years old and Kay being 72. Bill and Kay had just recently celebrated their third wedding anniversary on July 14th. Prior to their marriage, they had both been widowed. Bill's previous wife, Marilyn, had died of cancer in 2006, and I don't have any information on Kay's previous marriage. But despite both losing their spouses, they found love again, and their families described them as being deeply in love and really acting like teenagers. One of the things that Bill and Kay bonded over was their mutual love of antiquing and going to auctions. Kay was a collector of China dolls, and Bill had a 1940s gas pump in the front yard. I read in a lot of articles that when it came to antiquing, they both had expensive taste. On Sunday, July 31st, after the massive blaze had been extinguished, efforts began searching the home, which was completely destroyed by the fire. Around 11:30 a.m., a body was discovered in the home. The remains were transported to the state medical examiner's office for identification. And the remains were so badly burned that they were unable to make an identification right away or determine the victim's gender. Authorities, though, were not quick to assume that the remains belonged to either Bill or Kay. One officer commented that they had previously seen an arsonist perish in a fire of their own making. An extensive search of the home and property was done, and no other victims were found. With one body being found in the home and with no immediate confirmation that it was Bill or Kay, investigators were looking for information on not only where the couple was, but also how the fire started. Officials immediately considered this fire to be suspicious. This was for a few reasons, one of which was the location of the Woods home. They were located just down the street from the fire department, and by the time firefighters arrived, the home was fully engulfed in flames. Brian Vance, a firefighter and police sergeant with the Des Moines Police Department, said, quote, "Had the fire slowly built, it probably would not have been venting through the roof before someone reported it." Authorities said the fire appeared to have started on an enclosed porch where most of the damage was, and then spread throughout the rest of the house. Now, despite their suspicions, there weren't any obvious signs of arson, so the cause of the fire was initially listed as undetermined. At the same time, officers went door to door asking questions and looking for any information that might lead to the Woods' whereabouts. Relatives and neighbors didn't know where the Woods were, but it was learned that they were last seen mid-morning at an auction on Saturday shopping for antiques. The auction was in Stuart, Iowa. Stuart was located about 45 minutes west of Norwalk. A man named Brad Harris was quoted in a Des Moines Register article as saying, quote, "They bought some things. I think I heard someone mention a brass urn. I'm assuming whatever they bought is missing because we don't have them. Unless they were in the truck. We don't have the truck." Because you see, as police continued to question neighbors and family, they also learned that Bill and Kay had two vehicles, and one of them was missing. And I would think right off the bat, at least while firefighters are still putting out the flames before they've discovered this body, that the truck not being there might have been somewhat of a relief. Maybe this meant that the couple was out of town, that there was no one in the massive blaze they were battling. But they needed to track this truck down, and police were able to quickly learn from OnStar that the vehicle was in Kansas City, Missouri. The 2009 Chevrolet Silverado was found approximately 170 miles or a 2.5-hour drive from their home in Kansas City, Missouri. But they soon discovered this wasn't a situation where the two were out of town on vacation. They didn't find the truck at a hotel or vacationing spot. The truck was discovered at the Cordillera Ranch Apartments on North Donnelly Avenue in Kansas City. Family members have commented that they had no connections to Kansas City or that area, and they didn't believe Bill or Kay did either. The apartments are described in a lot of the articles as being higher end or ritzy. They are condo-style units, and their rent at the time was between $700 and $1,400, and that's according to an article in the Des Moines Register. Today, they have one bedroom, one bath, 695 square foot units starting at $1,192. Now, the complex itself is northeast of the Kansas City metro area near the suburb of Liberty. And looking at the complex itself now, they do look like very nice apartments. In addition to the units, the complex has a pool, a hot tub, tennis court, dog park. It's got a sand volleyball area. And it has this like community type area with a pool table and a fireplace. It's got a workout facility. It's definitely a nice complex and seems like a nice area. DCI Special Agent Motzinger commented in the Des Moines Register article that where the truck was found just didn't add up to him. He said, "The place isn't run down. People pay a lot of money to live there." Now, I don't really know what he's insinuating with this. I don't know if his assumption is that if someone had started the fire and stole the truck and left it, that they'd leave it in a more run-down area. I'm not really sure what he's insinuating with that statement. But either way, the truck is found at these apartments, and it's not explicitly stated in what I've read, but the Woods are not with the truck. They found the truck, but still not Bill or Kay. Late Monday, officials released a press statement asking for the public to come forward if they had any information or had seen the Woods pickup that weekend, specifically between noon Saturday and noon Sunday. The vehicle was impounded and began being processed for clues. An article published in the Des Moines Register on October 5th, 2011 said evidence was found in the truck, but no information has ever been released to my knowledge on what that evidence was. Volunteers from the community gathered with Bill and Kay's family to search roadways, abandoned buildings, and personal property if they could get permission from the owners. Bill's brother Henry was quoted in a Des Moines Register article as saying, quote, "We're hoping to find something, we're not hoping to find something. The truck was found in Kansas City, so we're going to head that way, just hoping that maybe they threw something out. We really don't know what we're looking for, just any clues that might be out there. We've got a lot of people here. We're a big family. We thought, let's go out and see what we can do." The discovery of the Woods pickup in Kansas City was really baffling to everyone. Henry said, quote, "That's one of the biggest puzzle pieces of this whole thing. It was a truck he was very proud of, and it would stand out. He kept it in mint condition." Now, at this point, August 3rd, officials were still not assuming that the body found in the home was that of Bill or Kay, though they hadn't ruled out that possibility. Officials were still not releasing the gender or any other identifying characteristics of the body. As news spread about the fire, the body found, and that Bill and Kay were still missing, more tips came in. On Tuesday, August 9th, 2011, authorities released a sketch of a man described as a person of interest in the case. After finding the Woods truck near the apartments in Kansas City, witnesses reported to authorities that they saw the man depicted in the sketch with the pickup. The man was described as being in his late 40s to early 60s, between 6'2" or 6'6", with a slender build and short gray and white hair. In the reports, investigators wouldn't say how the man was connected to the truck, but it was more than just a guy who happened to be walking by it. DCI Special Agent Motzinger said, quote, "We have a pretty good idea he's tied to the vehicle somehow." In addition to releasing a sketch and information about a person of interest found near the Woods pickup, authorities confirmed that the body found in the home was male, but they were still waiting on DNA testing to confirm the identity, whether it was Bill or another man. On August 19th, the Iowa Department of Public Safety made a devastating announcement. The remains found in the Woods home belonged to Bill. But even more, it was announced through an autopsy that Bill had been shot several times. An initial press report did say that Bill had been shot in the head, but that seemed to have been revised later, so I don't believe that was the case. When the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation informed the family members of the findings from the autopsy, Bill's brother Henry said everyone broke down. He was hurt to hear that his brother had met such a violent end. He said, quote, "It's one thing to think it, but it's another when someone comes out and says this is what happened." He went on to say, "It really hurt to think, somebody shot my brother. Now we know that he was shot. I guess we find some comfort in that would be better than burning. We hope it was quick. We hope it was painless." Kay's daughter Patty expressed her devastation at the news. She said, quote, "I think in our hearts we were hoping they were together, just because you want that. If they're going to go, you want them to be together." And this was one of the biggest questions. Where was Kay? What happened to her? I had initially wondered if, because the house was so badly burned, if it was possible for her body to have been burnt so much that it wasn't able to be discovered. But I was doing some research and learned that house fires really just are not able to burn that hot. Officers continued to search for Kay, but Agent Motzinger said there were no clues about her whereabouts or if she was still alive. He said, quote, "We have no smoking gun lead out there that has directed us one way or another." Years have gone by, and there are still no answers as to where Kay Wood went, who shot and killed Bill, and who started the fire at their home. In 2014, DCI Special Agent Michael Motzinger said information involving the case still comes in, but not as frequently. He hopes that keeping the case in the public eye will help to uncover leads. He said, quote, "I don't know if the public realizes it's still not solved at this time. So with the 3-year anniversary, we're trying to get it back in the public's eye, and hopefully someone will come forward if they have any information." In 2018, Bill's granddaughter, Sarah, expressed the same sentiments. She said, quote, "I want the public to know and understand that this is still not solved, that we still need help finding answers, that what might seem like something small and insignificant could be exactly what we need to get the answers we still don't have." Now, the prevailing theory I have seen in this case is that someone followed Bill and Kay home from the auction in Stewart and robbed them. But I don't know. This theory to me just doesn't click. Driving 45 minutes to an hour away from where the auction was, following someone home from this auction, it seems like a long time. And if they were at the auction around noon, then you assume that the perpetrator waited all day until nightfall to rob and kill and start the fire and then flee. But why? Or did the person immediately try to rob them? Did they kill Bill earlier in the day and then go back to start the fire? But with this theory, why is Kay also not in the home? If your intent was to rob them and the burglary went wrong and you kill Bill, why wouldn't you also kill Kay in that moment and leave her body as well? Then start the fire to presumably destroy evidence. Why take Kay? If you're starting the fire to destroy evidence, you are at least evidence conscious enough to try to cover your tracks. Taking Kay, whether she's alive and you're holding her hostage, or if she's dead and you want to, for some reason, dump her body elsewhere, it goes against the logic the person had in destroying the home in the first place. You're putting yourself as the criminal at so much more risk. You're making so much more evidence and chances that you'll get caught. So this theory that someone followed them from the auction, it just doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't make sense. On July 29th, 2016, at the 5-year anniversary of the murder of Bill Wood and the disappearance of Kay, an article published with KCCI walked through the mystery of the case and said that investigators had looked into hundreds of leads. In this article, it says that investigators believe the suspect is likely someone who knew the couple and that there's no threat to the public. Motzinger was quoted in this article as saying, quote, "Is there a person out there shooting people and setting fire to houses? No." I think this throws a wrench in the theory I saw discussed so often that someone followed them from the auction in Stewart and was trying to rob them. That theory to me would make more sense if the suspect was a stranger and picked them at random, or perhaps picked them based on what they purchased at the auction. If the person knew them, as investigators said in this article, what would the motive be? And why did they then flee to Kansas City? And how does Kay being missing fit into this picture? Lastly, I want to bring up 2 points I saw on the Charlie Project website, and they are 2 things I have not seen in any other news reporting, and the Charlie Project didn't list their sources for these 2 specific points. I will say I did submit a records request. I'm trying to verify these 2 points, but right now they are unverified, just posted on the Charlie Project's website. First, their website says, quote, "On July 31st, the same day Bill's body was identified, the Woods truck was found abandoned at the Cordillera Ranch Apartments in Kansas City, Missouri. Authorities determined it had actually been there since before the Woods house caught fire." I have not seen anywhere that the truck had been there since before the house caught fire. And for these last 2 points, I guess it's possible that information was reported, but I have not seen it in any of the articles I have reviewed. And for some reason, press statements from the Iowa Department of Public Safety are not archived on their website going back so far in 2011. I did include that in my records request, so I'm hoping that's maybe where the information came from. But if it's true that the truck was found before the fire started, that really, I think, changes everything about what the most logical theories would be. Because you would assume that Bill was shot, the fire was started, and the perpetrator took off in their truck, and apparently with Kay's body. But if the truck was at the apartment complex in Kansas City before the fire was started, then it's hard to understand how the fire started, unless the fire was just a pure coincidence. In the reports, they did say that while the fire was suspicious, there weren't any immediate signs of arson. Maybe Bill or Kay were smokers. Maybe there was a fire hazard out on the enclosed porch where they believe the fire started. It would be a crazy coincidence, but I really don't know how else you would explain the car being found before the fire started. Let me know in the comments on social media or send me an email if I'm missing something clear here, because that just does not make sense to me. Now, the second statement from the Charlie Project says, quote, authorities don't consider Kadena to be a suspect in the fire or her husband's murder. Foul play is suspected in her disappearance due to the circumstances involved. I haven't seen it reported specifically that authorities didn't consider Kay a suspect, but I will say no article or quote from authorities in news articles from this time ever had language that suggested they thought she had anything to do with this. But some rumors did swirl suggesting Kay was involved, and let's explore that as a theory. It wouldn't be far-fetched to believe that someone would kill their spouse and flee. The two did have expensive taste, there could have been money involved, but who was the man witnesses saw by the truck? Did she meet someone and want to run off with him? This is obviously just a theory. It's not one that's widely believed. If the couple were younger, I could see many more believing a theory like this, but there has never been a statement from authorities with them insinuating that Kay was involved. And if the statement from the Charlie Project's website is true, they have publicly stated that they have no reason to believe she was involved, and they consider her a victim of foul play as well. It has been 14 years, and the murder of Bill is still unsolved, and the disappearance of Kay Wood is still unsolved. But someone out there has to know something. If you have any information at all on the murder and disappearance of Bill and Kay Wood, please contact authorities. Did you used to live at the Cordillera Ranch Apartments in 2011? Do you remember seeing this truck there? Do you remember investigators coming around and questioning everyone? Has someone told you something about this case that stuck with you? Now is the time to report it. I will put contact information for who you can report tips to in the description of this episode. And we will see you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of Cardinal Crimes. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing, giving us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast, and sharing this episode with others. You can find us on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram with the handle @CardinalCrimes, and you can send us any case suggestions, questions, or topics you would like covered there or to our email, cardinalcrimes@gmail.com. Until next time, friends, take care of each other and take care of yourself. If you've ever thought about starting your own podcast, there's no better place to begin than with Buzzsprout. It's the platform I use, and it makes publishing, promoting, and tracking your episodes so easy, even if you're not tech savvy. Plus, they help you get listed in all the major directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. And here's the best part. When you sign up for a paid Buzzsprout plan using my affiliate link, you'll get $20 off, and you'll be supporting the show at the same time. Just head to the description of this episode to find the affiliate link. Now, let's get back to the episode.